Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the USS Liberty, watching the stars through the main window. The massive ship moved slowly through space, keeping watch over the outer edges of human territory. Jake had been captain for 5 years. Now, and he loved the quiet times between patrol duties, the Liberty was huge. It stretched for 3 miles from front to back and carried over 2,000 crew members. Most people called it a dreadnought, the biggest type of warship humans had ever built. Jake called it home. "Captain," called out Lieutenant Amy Davis from her station. "We're getting a message. It's coming through on all frequencies." Jake turned. "Around all frequencies? That's unusual." "Put it on the main screen." The front window changed to show a large alien creature. It had blue skin, 4 arms, and eyes that glowed red. Gold medals covered its chest, and a fancy hat sat on its large head. Jake had never seen anything like it before. "I am Admiral Vextar of the Zephyrian Galactic Empire," the alien said. Its voice was deep and angry. "I speak to all humans in this galaxy. You will listen to my words." Jake looked at his crew. They all seemed surprised. First contact with aliens was supposed to happen through special channels, not like this. "For too long, your species has spread across the stars without permission," Admiral Vextar continued. "You have built colonies on 3 new worlds. You have claimed systems that do not belong to you. This ends now." The alien pressed some buttons. On his chair, the screen changed to show hundreds of massive spaceships. Each one was the size of a small city. They moved in perfect lines through space, their hulls shining with metal and lights. "Behold the grand fleet of the Zephyrian Empire," Vextar said. 3,000 warships. Each one carries weapons that can destroy entire planets. Each one is manned by warriors who have conquered 100 worlds. Jake counted the ships on the screen. There were more than he had ever seen in one place. The human fleet had maybe 50 ships total, and most of them were much smaller than these alien vessels. The screen changed again. Now it showed one of the alien ships firing a bright beam at a large asteroid. The rock, which was probably 10 miles wide, simply disappeared. Nothing was left, not even dust. "Your colonies will be abandoned," Vextar said. "Your people will return to your home. System, you have 30 of your days to comply. If you refuse, we will destroy every human ship, every human world, every human life. You cannot fight us. You cannot hide from us. You can only obey." The message ended. The bridge became very quiet. Lieutenant Davis looked at Jake. "Sir, should I contact Terra Command?" "Yes," Jake said. "Send them everything we just saw. Tell them it's urgent." While Davis worked at her station, Jake thought about what they had just witnessed. 3,000 ships, weapons that could destroy planets. It seemed impossible that humans could fight against something like that. 30 minutes later, the communication system buzzed. "USS Liberty. This is Admiral Lisa Carter at Terra Command. Captain Morrison, please respond." Jake pressed a button. "This is Morrison. I assume you got our message." "We did. I'm calling an emergency meeting with all the Joint Chiefs. We need to decide how to respond to this threat." "Admiral, with respect, what is there to decide? They have 3,000 ships. We have maybe 50 on a good day." "Captain, I want you to participate in this meeting through a video link. Your input will be valuable." "Yes, ma'am." The main screen changed to show a large meeting room on Mars. Admiral Carter sat at the head of a long table. Around her were the most important military leaders in human space. General Robert Hayes commanded the Marine Corps. Admiral Susan Clark ran the Space Navy. Colonel Mark Davis led the Special Forces. "Ladies and gentlemen," Admiral Carter began, "you've all seen the alien message. We have 30 days to abandon our colonies or face destruction. I want options. General Hayes spoke first. We could evacuate the colonies. Move everyone back to the inner systems. That would save lives, Admiral Clark agreed. But it would also mean giving up everything we've worked for. Colonel Davis shook his head. If we run now, they'll just demand more later. Bullies never stop with just one victory. Jake listened to the discussion. Everyone seemed to think humans had only two choices: run or die fighting. Then something funny occurred to him. Admiral Carter, Jake said through the communication link. Yes, Captain Morrison? I have a question. Did anyone tell these aliens what they're actually challenging? The room went quiet. Admiral Carter raised an eyebrow. What do you mean, Captain? Jake started to smile. Then the smile became a chuckle. The chuckle became full laughter. He laughed so hard that tears came to his eyes. Captain Morrison, Admiral Carter said firmly, please explain your reaction. Jake wiped his eyes and tried to stop laughing. I'm sorry, Admiral. It's just ... Do they have any idea what they're really dealing with? Do they know what human warships can actually do? Admiral Carter looked at the other officers around the table. They were all starting to smile too. Captain, she said slowly, I think they have no idea at all. Should we tell them? Jake asked, still grinning. No, Admiral Carter said. She pressed a button on the table. Authorization Carter Alpha 7. Activate Protocol 7. Jake's eyes went wide. Even he had only heard rumors about Protocol 7. It was so secret that most of the military didn't know it existed. All stations, Admiral Carter announced to the room. Begin Phase 1 preparations. Remove all safety restrictions. Activate hidden systems. It's time to show our guests what human engineering can really do. Jake looked out at the stars again. Somewhere out there, 3,000 alien ships were heading toward human space. Their crews probably thought this would be easy. They were about to learn that humans were full of surprises. Admiral, Jake said into his communicator, this is going to be fun. Commander Ryan Walsh walked through the engine room of the USS Constitution, checking systems that most people didn't know existed. The heavy cruiser looked like a normal warship from the outside. Inside, it was something completely different. How are we doing, Chief? Ryan asked Chief Engineer Carol Lopez. All hidden systems are coming online, Carol replied. The alien scanners will still show us as a basic cruiser. They have no idea what we really are. Ryan nodded. 3 days had passed since Admiral Vextar's message. The Zephyrian Grand Fleet was moving toward human space, expecting to find scared humans with primitive weapons. They were going to be very surprised. Bring the main reactor to full power, Ryan ordered. Sir, our reactor is already at full power, said Technician Bill Santos. Ryan smiled. No, Bill. Bring it to actual full power. Bill's eyes went wide. He pressed a series of buttons that weren't on any official manual. Deep in the ship's core, systems that had been sleeping for years began to wake up. The power readings on the screens jumped to numbers that should have been impossible. My God, Bill whispered. How long have we had this much power? About 20 years, Carol said. We just never needed it before. Across the ship, hidden panels opened in the hull. Weapon systems emerged that looked nothing like human technology. They hummed with energy that made the air itself feel electric. On Luna Station, Dr. Amanda Foster watched as manufacturing plants revealed their true purpose. For decades, people thought these facilities mined metals from asteroids. In reality, they had been building materials that didn't exist anywhere else in the galaxy. Production rate is increasing, reported her assistant, Dr. Kevin Brown. The new alloy is ready for ship armor upgrades. Amanda looked at the metal samples on her desk. They looked normal, but they could stop energy beams that would cut through regular steel like paper. Human scientists had learned to make matter itself obey different rules. How much do we have? Amanda asked. Enough to upgrade every ship in the fleet, Kevin said. Plus enough extra for new construction if needed. Good. Send word to all shipyards. Begin the upgrade process immediately. Captain Ben Parker stood on the bridge of the USS Ranger, reading the real mission briefings for the first time. For years, he had commanded what everyone thought was a small destroyer. Now he learned the truth. Lieutenant Sarah Kim, he called to his weapons officer. Please explain to me why our ship masses 50,000 tons but our engines show we only weigh 10,000 tons. Sarah grinned. Because 40,000 tons of our ship exists in a different dimension, sir. We can bring it back into normal space when we need it. And what exactly is in that other dimension? Weapons, sir. Lots and lots of weapons. Ben laughed. Show me. Sarah pressed a control that wasn't supposed to exist. Around the Ranger, space itself seemed to tear open. Massive gun barrels emerged from nowhere. Missile pods that were bigger than most ships appeared along the hull. The small destroyer suddenly became a mobile weapons platform that could destroy entire fleets. How long have we been carrying all this? Ben asked. Since the day the ship was built, sir. We just kept it hidden until we needed it. Meanwhile, on the colony world of New Arizona, the human settlers were having a very different reaction to the alien threat. Instead of panic, they had organized a massive barbecue competition. I bet the aliens have never tasted real Texas barbecue, said Mayor Tom Wilson as he watched smoke rise from hundreds of grills. Maybe we should invite them to dinner instead of fighting. His wife, Linda Wilson, laughed while she prepared potato salad for 3,000 people. Honey, I don't think they're coming here to make friends. They're lost, Tom said. Mary's ribs could convert anyone to the human cause. On Prosperity Prime, the newest human colony, people were making bets on how the coming battle would end. The local bookmaker, Steve Martin, had set the odds at 50-1 in favor of humans. You really think we can beat 3,000 alien ships? Asked customer Janet Phillips. Lady, I've lived on the frontier my whole life, Steve said. One thing I've learned is that humans are full of surprises. I'd bet my last dollar that those aliens have no idea what they're walking into. Back in space, the Zephyrian Grand Fleet moved closer to human territory. Admiral Vexstar stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Dominator of Worlds, studying reports about human military strength. Status report, he demanded from his intelligence officer. Sir, human forces consist of approximately 50 ships. Most are small frigates and destroyers. They have perhaps 10 heavy cruisers and only 1 dreadnought. Weapons? Basic energy? Cannons and missile systems. Nothing that can penetrate our shields. Vexstar nodded. Excellent. This will be over quickly. What the Zephyrian scanners couldn't detect were the changes happening throughout human space. Every human ship was shedding its disguise. Hidden systems came online. Weapons that had been kept in other dimensions returned to normal space. Power cores that had been operating at 1% capacity suddenly roared to life. Admiral Lisa Carter watched the transformation from her command center on Mars. Status reports flooded in from every ship in the fleet. USS Liberty reports all systems operational and ready. USS Constitution has completed power core activation. USS Ranger confirms dimensional weapons deployment. One by one, every human ship reported the same thing. They were ready for battle. But these weren't the same ships that the aliens had seen in their intelligence reports. These were weapons of war that operated on principles the Zephyrians had never imagined. Admiral, said her aide, Captain Nicole Davis, we're receiving a message from the alien fleet. They're demanding our surrender. Lisa smiled. Tell them. We'll meet them at the border. 12 ships. 12 ships, ma'am. Against 3,000? 12 will be enough, Lisa said. More than enough. She pressed a button on her desk. All ships. This is Admiral Carter. Remove all remaining safety locks. Full power authorization is granted. Show them what human engineering can do. Across human space, the last restrictions were lifted. Ships that had been hiding their true nature for decades finally revealed what they really were. The USS Liberty's hull began to glow with energy. The USS Constitution started to bend space around itself. The USS Ranger opened doorways to dimensions that shouldn't exist. Captain Jake Morrison felt his ship transform around him. Systems that had been sleeping came fully awake. Weapons that could reshape reality itself, charged with power. Captain, said Lieutenant Amy Davis, I'm reading energy signatures I've never seen before. That's because these systems have never been used in combat, Jake said. We built them hoping we'd never need them. And now? Jake looked out at the stars, where somewhere an alien fleet was approaching with confidence they didn't deserve. Now we get to find out if they work as well as the scientists promised. The USS Liberty and 11 other human ships began moving toward the edge of human space. They weren't running away. They weren't hiding. They were going to meet the Zephyrian Grand Fleet head-on. Admiral Vextar would soon learn that challenging humanity had been the biggest mistake of his very long life. Admiral Vextar stood on the bridge of his flagship, watching the scanner displays with growing confusion. His grand fleet of 3,000 ships had reached the edge of human space, ready to crush any resistance. Instead of finding a desperate defensive line, they had encountered exactly 12 human vessels. Scan those ships again, Vextar ordered his sensor officer. Sir, readings confirm 12 human vessels. 1 dreadnought, 4 heavy cruisers, 6 destroyers, and 1 ship of unknown class. Vextar's 4 arms crossed in frustration. Where is the rest of their fleet? Are they hiding behind those planets? Negative, sir. Deep scans show no other ships in the system. The Admiral's red eyes glowed brighter. These humans were either incredibly brave or incredibly stupid. He suspected the latter. On the USS Liberty, Captain Jake Morrison watched the alien fleet take formation. 3,000 ships arranged themselves in perfect attack patterns, their hulls gleaming with weapons and armor. It was an impressive sight. They certainly know how to put on a show, Jake said to his crew. Sir, said Lieutenant Amy Davis, they're broadcasting a message. Put it through. Admiral Vextar's image appeared on the main screen. Human vessels, you are surrounded and outnumbered. Surrender immediately, and your deaths will be quick. Jake looked around his bridge. His officers were trying not to smile. Admiral Vextar, Jake replied, we appreciate the offer, but we're going to have to decline. Then you have chosen death. My fleet will demonstrate the futility of resistance. The transmission ended. Jake turned to his tactical officer, Lieutenant Mike Johnson. Mike, what do you think? Should we be worried? Mike checked his instruments. Sir, their energy signatures suggest they're using fusion-based weapons and basic shield technology. I'd estimate their most powerful ship could maybe scratch our paint. Maybe scratch our paint, Jake repeated thoughtfully. Well, we can't have that. Admiral Vextar selected 100 of his heavy cruisers for the demonstration. These ships each carried enough firepower to level the city. Against a single human destroyer, they would be unstoppable. Target the isolated destroyer, he commanded. Full power barrage. Show these primitives what Imperial might looks like. The human ship in question was the USS Defiant, commanded by Captain Steve Collins. Steve had been in the Navy for 15 years and had never fired a shot in anger. Today would be different. Captain, called his weapons officer, We're being targeted by 100 enemy ships. How exciting, Steve said calmly. Are they actually going to shoot at us? Massive energy buildup detected. They're preparing to fire. Should I raise shields? Asked his defense officer. Steve thought about it. No, I don't think we need them for this. The Zephyrian ships fired. 100 beams of pure energy, each one capable of melting through the thickest armor, converged on the USS Defiant. The space around the small ship erupted in blinding light. When the light faded, the USS Defiant hung in space exactly where it had been. Not a single scorch mark appeared on its hull. Well, Steve announced to his crew, that tickled. On the Zephyrian flagship, the sensor officer stared at his readings in disbelief. Sir, the human ship shows no damage. None at all. Impossible, Vextar snarled. Their shields must be more powerful than our estimates. Sir, they didn't raise shields. They took the full barrage with their bare hull. Steve Collins opened a communication channel to the entire Zephyrian fleet. That was adorable. Our turn. The USS Defiant's main gun, charged with power that bent space around it. Steve didn't target just one ship. He didn't even target 10 ships. His single shot was aimed at 17 Zephyrian heavy cruisers arranged in a perfect line. The beam that emerged from the Defiant was unlike anything the aliens had ever seen. It didn't just punch through their shields and armor. It passed through them as if they weren't there, leaving perfectly round holes in 17 ships before disappearing into deep space. For a moment, nothing happened. Then all 17 cruisers exploded simultaneously, their destruction so complete that not even debris remained. 17 ships, Steve announced cheerfully, destroyed with one shot. Anyone else want to try their luck? Admiral Vextar couldn't believe what he had just witnessed. 17 of his best ships, gone in an instant. The humans had weapons that operated on principles he didn't understand. All ships, he commanded, concentrate fire on the human vessels. Everything we have. 3,000 alien ships opened fire at once. The space between the fleets filled with enough energy to boil oceans. Missile swarms darkened the stars. Energy. Beams created a light show, visible from other star systems. The 12 human ships sat in the middle of this maelstrom, completely unaffected. The massive barrage washed over them like gentle rain. Not one human vessel moved. Not one showed any damage. Captain Jake Morrison watched the fireworks display with mild interest. That's quite a light show they're putting on. Should we return fire, sir? Asked Lieutenant Johnson. Not yet. I want to see if they can do better than this. The alien barrage continued for 10 minutes. Every weapon in the Zephyrian arsenal fired at maximum power. When it finally stopped, the human ships remained exactly where they had started. Is that seriously your best effort? Jake asked over the communication channel. Because if it is, this is going to be embarrassing. For you. Captain Ben Parker, commanding the USS Ranger, decided to show the aliens something interesting. His ship began to change shape, revealing weapon systems that emerged from other dimensions. Guns bigger than most spaceships appeared along the Ranger's hull. This is impossible, Admiral Vextar whispered. Ships cannot carry weapons larger than themselves. They can if you know how to fold space properly, Ben said helpfully. Would you like a demonstration? Before Vextar could answer, the USS Constitution joined the show. Captain Nicole Brown's ship started to glow with energy that made nearby. Asteroids begin orbiting it like tiny moons. Gravity manipulation, Nicole explained. Very useful in combat. Watch this. She activated her ship's gravity projectors. Suddenly, 50 Zephyrian ships found themselves being pulled together like iron filings to a magnet. They crashed into each other with tremendous force, their hulls crumpling like paper, Captain Dan Rodriguez on the USS Thunderbolt decided to demonstrate something even more disturbing. His ship fired a beam that didn't destroy enemy vessels. Instead, it made them age. Zephyrian ships that had been built months ago suddenly looked like they were centuries old. Their hulls corroded, their systems failed, and their crews found themselves too old to fight. Time manipulation, Dan explained casually. We can make things older or younger as needed. Very handy for dealing with aggressive neighbors. The most dramatic demonstration came from Captain Kelly Mason aboard the USS Phoenix. Her ship fired a weapon that didn't destroy anything. Instead, it changed things. Zephyrian warships suddenly became fields of flowers. Others turned into clouds of butterflies. One unfortunate vessel became a giant neon sign that read, "Surrender now," in perfect Zephyrian script. Matter conversion, Kelly announced. We can turn anything into anything else. Usually we use it for manufacturing, but it works in combat. 2. Admiral Vextar watched his fleet being toyed with by 12 human ships. Hundreds of his vessels had been destroyed, aged to death, or turned into decorations. The humans weren't even trying hard. How? He whispered. How is this possible? Jake Morrison heard the question and decided to answer. Admiral, you made one very big mistake. You assumed we were primitive. We're not. We've just been very, very careful about who we show our real capabilities to. This is impossible, Vextar repeated. No species has technology this advanced. We do, Jake said simply. And now you know why we're not worried about your little fleet. The demonstration was far from over. The humans had barely started showing what they could do. Admiral Vextar realized he was no longer watching a battle. This was something worse. This was a lesson, and the humans were the teachers. All remaining ships, he ordered desperately, retreat to maximum weapons range and continue firing. The surviving Zephyrian vessels, now fewer than 2,000, pulled back several million miles and resumed their attack. They used their longest-range weapons, hoping distance would somehow help them dock. Captain Jake Morrison sighed as he watched the aliens retreat. Do they really think distance matters to us? Apparently they do, sir, said Lieutenant Amy Davis. Should we show them why that won't work? Not yet. Let's see what other tricks they want to try first. The alien fleet fired everything they had from extreme range. Missiles that should have taken hours to reach their targets crossed the distance in minutes. Energy beams that should have weakened over such distances struck with full power. None of it mattered. The human ships absorbed the attacks without even noticing them. Captain Nicole Brown decided to demonstrate why distance was meaningless to human technology. Her ship, the USS Constitution, simply disappeared from where it was and reappeared, directly in the middle of the Zephyrian formation. Instant travel, she announced cheerfully. We don't need to worry about how far away you are. The aliens fired at her from point-blank range. Their weapons passed harmlessly through her ship, as if wasn't there. Oh, and we can be solid or not solid as we choose, Nicole added. Depends on what we need at the moment. Captain Dan Rodriguez showed them something even more disturbing. His ship, the USS Thunderbolt, fired a weapon at a group of 50 Zephyrian vessels. The beam struck them, and they all stopped moving. Not destroyed, not damaged, just frozen in place. Time stop, Dan explained. We can pause time for anything we want. Those ships will stay frozen until we decide to let them go. Admiral Vextar watched 50 of his ships become statues in space. What kind of beings are you? He whispered. We're human, Jake Morrison replied. We're also very, very good at solving problems. Captain Ben Parker decided to show the aliens one of humanity's more creative solutions. The USS Ranger fired what looked like a normal missile at a Zephyrian ship. When it hit, nothing seemed to happen. Then the enemy vessel started to sing. "What did you do to my ship?" the Zephyrian captain demanded over the communication channel. "I turned your hull into a musical instrument," Ben said. "Every time you move, you'll play a different tune. I thought you might enjoy some variety in your day." The Zephyrian ship tried to maneuver and immediately began playing what sounded like a waltz. Other ships in the area started laughing despite. Their terror. Captain Steve Collins on the USS Defiant decided to try something different. Instead of attacking the enemy ships, he targeted empty space near them. Where his weapon hit, new ships appeared. They looked exactly like Zephyrian vessels, but they immediately began attacking their own fleet. Ship duplication and personality. "Inversion," Steve explained. "Now you're fighting yourselves. Much more efficient than us having to do all the work." The Zephyrian fleet descended into chaos as they tried to figure out which ships were real and which were copies. The duplicate vessels fought with perfect knowledge of Zephyrian tactics, making them incredibly effective. Captain Kelly Mason decided the aliens needed to see something truly impossible. The USS Phoenix fired a beam that passed through several enemy ships without touching them. Instead, it hit the space behind them. Suddenly, a planet appeared. Not a small asteroid or moon, but a full-sized world complete with oceans, continents, and weather systems. "Matter creation," Kelly announced. "We can make new planets if we need them. This one has a nice climate. You might want to consider retiring there." Admiral Vexstar stared at the impossible sight of a planet being created for nothing. His species had legends about beings who could reshape reality itself. He had thought they were just stories. "We surrender," he said quietly. "I'm sorry," Jake Morrison replied. "I didn't hear that clearly." "We surrender," Vexstar shouted. "Please, no more demonstrations." Jake looked around his bridge. His officers were smiling, but they also looked a little sad that the fun was ending so quickly. "Actually," Jake said, "we're not quite finished. We want to show you one more thing." The USS Liberty began to charge its main weapon. Power readings climbed to levels that should have been impossible. Energy signatures appeared that the Zephyrian sensors couldn't even classify. "What we're about to show you," Jake announced, "is our most impressive capability. We're going to borrow some energy from a few nearby stars." Admiral Vexstar watched in horror as his sensors detected energy being drawn from 6 different solar systems simultaneously. The human ship was somehow channeling the power of multiple suns into a single weapon. "Please," he begged, "we surrender. You've proven your point." "Oh, we're not going to destroy you," Jake said reassuringly. "That would be wasteful. We're going to do something much more educational." The USS Liberty fired. The beam that emerged was so bright it could be seen from other galaxies. It struck the remaining Zephyrian fleet with the combined power of 6 stars, but instead of vaporizing them, it did something impossible. The entire fleet simply vanished. For a moment, Admiral Vexstar thought they had been destroyed. Then his sensors picked up a signal from the far edge of the galaxy. His ships were there, all of them, completely unharmed, but millions of light years away from where they started. "Spatial relocation," Jake explained. "We moved your entire fleet to a nice quiet system where you can think about what you've learned. Today, don't worry, there are habitable planets there. You'll be comfortable while you decide whether you want to try bothering us again." "How did you move 3,000 ships across the galaxy instantly?" Vexstar asked. "Space is really just a suggestion," Captain Nicole Brown answered. "If you understand the underlying mathematics, you can make it behave however you want." Jake Morrison opened a channel to address the entire Zephyrian fleet. "Admiral Vexstar, you and your people are free to go. Find your way home. Tell your empire what you've seen here today. And remember this lesson. What lesson? Vextar asked weakly. Never assume that just because someone hasn't shown you their full strength, they don't have any. The 12 human ships began to turn away, preparing to return to their patrol duties. Wait, Admiral Vextar called out. How long have you had these capabilities? Jake Morrison paused. About a century. We've just been hoping we'd never need to use them. Why didn't you use them to conquer other species? Because we didn't want to. We prefer to be left alone to do our own thing. Unfortunately, you decided to test us. The human ships disappeared, returning to their normal patrol routes. Admiral Vextar was left alone with his fleet in a distant system, trying to figure out how to explain to his emperor that the primitive humans had just rewritten everything the galaxy thought it knew about warfare. The demonstration was over. The lesson had been taught. Now the galaxy would have to decide what to do with this new knowledge. 3 weeks after the demonstration, Admiral Vextar's defeated fleet finally made it home to the Zephyrian Empire. The journey that should have taken days had stretched into weeks as they tried to find their way back from the distant system, where the humans had relocated them. Emperor Zekton sat on his crystal throne, listening to Vextar's report with growing disbelief. The throne room was filled with the Empire's highest officials, all of them struggling to understand what they were hearing. You're telling me, the Emperor said slowly, that 12 human ships defeated our entire Grand Fleet? Not defeated. Your Majesty, Vextar corrected. They toyed with us. They could have destroyed us completely, but they chose not to. They wanted to send a message. What kind of weapons did they have? All of them, sir. Every type of weapon we've ever imagined. Plus many we haven't. They can control time, space, gravity, matter itself. They created a planet from nothing, just to show us they could. Minister Culver, the Empire's chief scientist, stepped forward. That's impossible. No species has technology that advanced. Vextar turned to face him. Minister, I watched them turn our warships into butterflies. I saw them age vessels to death in seconds. They moved our entire fleet across the galaxy with a single shot. Impossible is not a word that applies to humans. News of the defeat spread quickly throughout the galaxy. Species that had been planning their own attacks on human colonies suddenly found urgent, domestic problems that required their attention. The hegemony of worlds called an emergency session to discuss this new development. On Earth, the revelation of humanity's true capabilities caused a different kind of chaos. News reporter Alex Turner broke the story during the evening broadcast, causing celebration and confusion across all human worlds. For over a century, Alex reported, humanity has possessed technology that makes us the most powerful species in the known galaxy. Project Looking Glass, a secret research program, has given us capabilities that our enemies thought were impossible. In her laboratory on Luna Station, Dr. Amanda Foster found herself giving interviews to reporters from across human space. She tried to explain how human science had advanced so far beyond what anyone expected. We didn't invent all this technology, she explained to one interviewer. We found artifacts from an ancient civilization that disappeared millions of years ago, but we didn't just copy their work. We improved it. We took their physics and added human engineering. The result is technology that even its original creators might not recognize. Why keep it secret for so long? The reporter asked Amanda. Smiled, because we hoped we'd never need to use it. Humans prefer peace. We only reveal our strength when someone forces us to. The interview was broadcast across the galaxy, translated into hundreds of languages. Other species learned that humanity's apparent weakness had been the greatest deception in galactic history. Captain Jake Morrison found himself promoted to Admiral and transferred to a new position, Director of Galactic Relations. His first day on the job was unlike anything he had expected. Sir, his aide, Commander Lisa Parker reported, "We've received surrender offers from 47 different species." Surrender offers? We're not even at war with them. They want to surrender before we decide to be at war with them, sir. Jake looked at the list of messages on his desk. The Stellar Republic wanted to offer tribute. The Trade Federation was requesting protection. The warrior clans of Vega are asking to be left alone. "This is getting ridiculous," Jake muttered. His communicator buzzed. "Admiral Morrison, this is Admiral Carter. Please report to Terra Command for briefing." Jake found Admiral Carter in her office, surrounded by diplomatic messages from across the galaxy. She looked tired, but amused. "Jake, how do you feel about becoming humanity's first galactic diplomat? I thought I was Director of Galactic Relations." That was before every species in 3 spiral arms decided they wanted to talk to us. "Congratulations. You're now our official representative to the galaxy." "What exactly am I supposed to tell them?" Lisa Carter handed him a datapad. "The truth. We don't want to conquer anyone. We don't want tribute. We just want to be left alone to do our own thing. Unfortunately, we're now so powerful that everyone's afraid of us. Can't we just pretend to be weak again? Too late for that? The secret's out. Now we have to deal with the consequences." Jake looked at the messages on the datapad. There were requests for trade agreements, defense pacts, and technology sharing. There were also apologies from species that had never actually threatened humanity. "Admiral," he said, "I think I preferred it when people underestimated us." On New Arizona, the human colonists were having a very different reaction to their new status. Mayor Tom Wilson called a town meeting to discuss how to handle their newfound fame. "Folks," he announced to the gathered crowd, "it seems we're now citizens of the most powerful species in the galaxy. Anyone have thoughts on how we should celebrate? Bigger barbecue?" suggested Mary Patterson. "I like the way you think," Tom replied. On Prosperity Prime, bookmaker Steve Martin was dealing with a completely different problem. Everyone wanted to bet on humanity in any future conflicts, making the odds impossibly one-sided. "I can't take any more bets on humans," he told his customers. "The odds are so far in our favor that I'd go bankrupt paying out winnings." 6 months after the demonstration, Admiral Jake Morrison stood before the United Nations General Assembly to address the people of Earth. The speech was broadcast to every human world and monitored by dozens of alien species. "Citizens of humanity," he began, "6 months ago, the galaxy learned that we are not the weak, primitive species they thought we were. Today, I want to explain what this means for our future." He looked out at the assembled delegates, representing every nation and colony in human space. "We did not seek this revelation. We preferred to remain unknown, to live our lives in peace. But when threatened with extinction, we showed the galaxy our true capabilities." Jake paused, choosing his words carefully. "Some of you have asked why we kept our strength secret. The answer is simple. Power without restraint is tyranny. We possessed weapons that could reshape reality itself, but we chose not to use them. We could have conquered the galaxy, but we chose not to. We could have imposed our will on every species we encountered, but we chose not to." The assembly hall was completely quiet. Today, every species in the galaxy knows what humans are capable. OF. They know we can move fleets across the galaxy, control time itself, and create matter from nothing. But more importantly, they know we choose not to use these abilities for conquest. Jake smiled as he delivered his final words. "The galaxy has learned that humans laugh when challenged, because we are not afraid. We are not afraid because we are strong. But we are not strong because we are cruel. We are strong because we choose to be better than our weapons." The speech ended to thunderous applause. Across the galaxy, alien species watched and understood that humanity's greatest strength was not their technology, but their restraint. Captain Jake Morrison, now Admiral Morrison, returned to his office to find one final message waiting for him. It was from Admiral Vex Star. Admiral Morrison, the message began, I wanted to thank you for the lesson you taught my people. We have disbanded our grand fleet and redirected our resources to peaceful purposes. The Zephyrian Empire formally requests to establish diplomatic relations with humanity. Jake smiled and began typing his reply. Admiral Vex Star, we would be honored to establish peaceful relations with the Zephyrian Empire. We hope this is the beginning of a long friendship between our peoples. He paused, then added one final line. And Admiral, next time you want to challenge someone, you might want to ask what they're really capable of first. Jake sent the message and looked out his window at the stars. Somewhere out there, the galaxy was learning to live with the knowledge that humans were far more than they appeared. It was a lesson that would change everything. The age of humanity's hidden strength was over. The age of humanity's responsible power had begun.